It's a beautiful day here at Garden Crossings. Hi, I'm Heidi. Today we're going to take a walk through our beautiful Proven Winners signature garden. And this is actually going to be a multi-series video, so you'll watch it over the next few days or so, because there's just so many gardens that we want to cover, and we think that, doing it in one video would just be way too long. So we're going to break it up for you over the next few days. So stay tuned to lots of beautiful garden videos. We're going to start off here. This is at the south end of the property, and this is what we call the Proven Winners signature garden, even though all of our gardens are part of that collection. But in this garden here, there's just so much beauty going on right now. Pollinators. Pollinators are kind of a big thing that we try to draw into our gardens. And with so many beautiful plants, it's an easy thing to do. So let's go ahead and take a closer look here at some of the flowers that we have here in this garden bed. We're going to start off with right behind me. You see this beautiful border here of the lemon coral sedum. It's an annual, and you can see how it just has this beautiful yellow to chartreuse green splash of color, and just really kind of draws your eye into this garden bed. Now sedum, this one in particular, isn't a super great pollinator plant because it is grown mostly for its foliage. But once we get past that, you'll see there's a lot of other things in this garden that really do a great job of attracting the pollinators. So we'll start off with the Verbena meteor showers, and we have these planted in about every single one of our garden beds because they are such a great butterfly magnet. This week we've been seeing a lot of the painted lady butterflies along with the honeybees and native bees. They're just really enjoying these globe-shaped blooms. And it's such a fun plant too, because it just kind of is a whimsy, fun, dance in the breeze kind of annual. We also have a lot of white poked in this garden, and that's so at night this garden kind of comes alive. If you haven't had a chance to plant any white in your garden, I highly recommend it, because white is one of those plants that just glows in the dark as the sun starts to set. This here is a sun patient compact white. We love sun patients in our garden because they are so easy to care for. Sun patients are actually an annual that really require very little to no fertilizer. In fact, the more fertilizer you give a sun patient, it's going to kind of shut it down a little bit and not have as many flowers. So super easy to care for as long as you're giving them lots of water. They are a very thirsty annual. In the back here, we have a beautiful little clumping or grouping of the Magic Show Ever After Veronica, and it's just starting to come into bloom. Ever After is about 16, maybe 18 inches tall or so, and it creates a beautiful mounding habit of very light, almost periwinkle blue flower spikes, and it's another great plant for the pollinator. As I look here at the plants, they're just covered with especially a lot of the native bees. Milkweed is also an important plant to have in your pollinator garden, especially if you're looking to attract the monarch caterpillars. And here we have just a little grouping of the Asclepias tuberosa. These were recently planted, so they're not super big yet, but those are going to be the host plant for the monarch butterflies. As we continue around and through into the garden here, we've got our saffron finch. These are supertunias with their beautiful bright yellow blooms, creating a very nice splash of ground cover. We have them paired with our Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, and that yellow and that kind of purpley pink color I think look really nice together. So you can not only do this in a ground planting, but that's also a mix that you could put together in a hanging basket or in a container because they pair very well together. And I think the highlight of this garden bed, at least for me anyways, are the hydrangeas. These are the hydrangea mini mauvettes. They're an arborescent hydrangea. They're part of the smooth hydrangea family, and these are a super reliable, easy to grow hydrangea. They bloom off of the new growth. So if you trim them in the fall or if you trim them in the spring, you're not going to sacrifice your blooms. Beautiful compact size, only about 2.5 foot tall by about 2 to 3 foot wide. You can see they can easily poke into just about any space in the garden. They play well with the perennials because essentially, even though they're a shrub, they're about the size of many of the perennials that are in this garden bed. Another one, part of the arborescent or smooth hydrangea family, is the invincible wee white hydrangea. And again too, you can see this is a very compact size hydrangea. This particular one here in our garden, it's only about 18 inches tall by about 24 inches wide. Although I can say that typically they do get a little bit bigger than this and match in habit to the mini mauvettes. Another really fun plant in this garden is the Nephophia. Nephophia pyromania rocket's red glare. If you're somebody that likes to have some fun and whimsy looking plants in the garden, this is a perfect plant. I love the flower spikes, how they're just beautiful, intense, kind of a reddish orange. And as those flowers open up and make their way to the tippy top of the spikes, you'll notice how they lighten up to a very pale butter yellow color, giving them kind of a bicolor look. This is a great plant, like if you have daylilies and such in the garden, the foliage and such matches, but just a fun, whimsy, airy looking plant. On the back side here of the garden bed, we did a mass planting of the supertunia vista bubblegum. So looking at these plants, if you're like, oh, mine kind of look like that too, as I look at these plants, they look like they're a little bit hungry. So you'll notice that in the center, there's a lot of that thick, dense foliage, but on the edges, it's a little bit more strappy and thin. There's a little bit of burgundy going on. And that's just basically telling us, Heidi, get somebody out here and give us some fertilizer. So that is something that we will be working on, is bringing the fertilizer out into this garden to get these plants so that they just look just a little bit nicer. A new plant for 2025 is tucked in the garden here. And it is part of the ailia series, the firefly series. And this is the firefly red pop. Look at those beautiful red blooms. I love ailia because not only is it a drought tolerant plant, it also is a great plant for pollinators. And if you have like a rock garden or spaces in your garden that just tend to kind of not have as much moisture, the ailia, or yarrow is another name for it, does really good in those dry type spaces. It's starting to be coneflower season as well. We have the color-coded Price's White coneflower. They're just starting to open. Nice habit, nice full plant, big, beautiful white blooms. Planted here, this is another series of coneflower, the Sombrero series. And this is the Sangrita, which you can see kind of has a little bit of that orangish reddish color to it. Now, a plant that I think is not talked about very much is the proudberry or Symphocarpus. And that is this beautiful plant here. This is a native plant that is excellent for pollinators. It's just starting to put on its flowers. So this time of year it gets some teeny tiny little flowers, and there's honeybees checking this plant out right now. And what will happen is later on in the season, these little flowers are going to turn to beautiful pink berries. So it's going to give you really nice late fall color with the berries that are on this plant. As you can see, there's a lot of just little honeybees just really giving this plant a look over. Going Bananas is a very popular daylily. It's a reblooming daylily, and you can see we have this beautiful mass planting here. So Going Bananas, the name kind of implies the color with that beautiful banana yellow coloration. Nice size blooms. A lot of times those daylilies that are rebloomers have fairly small blooms, but these are kind of, I'd say, like a medium sized bloom. That nice coloration. For those of you who don't know, daylilies, as the name implies, last for only one day. So that's a fun fact that I assume everyone would know, but there's all kinds of new people out here watching that are new to flowers and don't know a lot about them. And that is a fun fact with daylilies, is their flowers will bloom and last for one day. So that's why it's important to have a plant that has lots of buds. That way you can give lots of blooms that last throughout the season. And especially if it's a reblooming daylily, which not all daylilies are, they'll just continue to send up more buds and more blooms throughout the season. The hardy hibiscus are taking on their beautiful summer color. Look at that nice dark foliage there. This won't be blooming until sometime in August, But right now, while it's just growing and putting on lots of life, the foliage is really pretty in the garden with that deep dark contrast. This particular one is Holy Grail, so once it does start to bloom, we're going to have beautiful, huge dinner plate red size blooms. So something we'll look forward to later on in the summer. We're going to head on up into the middle of this garden bed so we can see some of the hidden treasures that are just beyond the walls of flowers. So we don't have a ton of shade on the property, so we definitely have to utilize our shade well. And here we've got this beautiful birch tree here, and it's creating some shady spaces in this garden. So let's take a look at what we have here. We have a beautiful Miss America hosta. These hostas were all planted, I think, last year, so they are still a little bit small in size. But this Miss America, as it continues to grow, it'll get about 3 to 4 foot wide, and these flower spikes will get upwards of 4 foot tall. So this is going to be a fun one to watch as it continues to mature in this garden and just get larger in size and send up those really tall flower spikes. We also have kind of a wrapping of ilex around this tree. These ilex give us winter interest because they don't lose their leaves. So if you're looking for something that will replace the boxwood, this particular one here is strong box. We have another one that's very similar called gem box, so I wanted to verify the name on this. But these strong box, they can be trimmed like you may trim your boxwood, but you don't have to worry about boxwood blight, which for some of you, boxwood blight can be an issue in your area. So just kind of a fun plant, nice habit. It only gets about 2 to 3 foot tall, so definitely something very compact that you can create a border or a hedge like we have here in this garden. We've got some of the lavender sweet romance here planted at the base of our Proven Winners signature garden sign. So Garden Crossings was designated as a signature garden in 2023. We're actually the first garden center with this designation. So it's quite an honor for us to be a part of the signature garden series from Proven Winners. If you have any questions or comments on today's walk through the garden, please feel free to leave it below. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.